Hello, Abigail here with the astrology of this week. And this week is a really, really big week in the astrology of 2026. This is really one of the weeks we've been building towards ever since we left the last eclipses back in Virgo season. And even now, as we have entered the new Gregorian calendar year, this is this kind of feeling of acceleration we've been feeling. And this is a form of climax. We are hitting some really big astrology. Not only are we moving into Pisces, we have an eclipse, we have Saturn Neptune conjunction. So just recognize that this week is exceptional. Um, I'm going to be releasing a couple videos about eclipse season. There will be the video up for the eclipses. So just keep an eye out because a lot of stuff is happening. And I'll be putting out a lot of stuff around what is happening. Also, there will be the tarot scopes for each zodiac sign for the season of Pisces, which we are entering in the middle of an eclipse portal. Which, I mean, right side, we're not entering into the new zodiac year like we did last year in an eclipse portal, but it's really tricky to go from one energy to another during an eclipse that is already hinging on two different axes and setting off two very different parts of our chart. So pay attention, look up where all this is happening in your chart, and let's get started. So Monday, we actually have something really lovely happening, and this is going to happen 3 times because yes, we are in the pre-retrograde shadow of the Mercury retrograde. So we are coming up on some really intense changes. This Mercury retrograde is going to be happening and starting during the eclipses. So it is even more impactful than what we've been experiencing as far as Mercury retrogrades, which has kind of been happening because the last set of Mercury retrogrades we had on fire signs, and that was also during the Aries Libra axis. So something similar is happening here. We're having water signs while we are in a Pisces Virgo axis eclipse cycle. Well, half of one. So this is a really beautiful benefic moment. When we get the final pass, Jupiter will be direct. And so we get to experience 3 very fluid and flowing Jupiterian mercurial moments. So, and also what's interesting is Jupiter is exalted and so elevated and has more influence over in Cancer, while Pisces is basically in double fall and retrograde because it's opposed, not retrograde, fall and why is my mind blanking? Fall and detriment. You can tell I am ruled by Mercury by the fact that when talking about Mercury retrogrades, I get all jingle jangled. Um, so this is kind of a really very interesting trine because we're pulling from this really gorgeous elevated energy to this kind of bit of struggle energy. I do love the poetry and the artistic energy of Mercury in Pisces, but Mercury doesn't function as highly in Pisces as it does in other signs, which is important to note. So we get 3 of these babies, and this is our first one, which is pretty exciting. And we get to also, like I said, experience them in different levels of retrograde. So we're going to have it direct in like the next time we see this while Mercury is in retrograde. So there's a lot of really complicated energy. And I think if you can kind of pay attention to when these events happen, you'll get a really lovely insight into how your chart works with these specific energies, which is what I always encourage people to do. Astrology doesn't really, it is ruled by time, but it also works outside of time. And by that, I mean, we learn by prediction, we learn from looking back, and we also learn from engaging in the moment. So this is a really lovely day where we're going to have a lot of insights. This is a beautiful day for art and poetry. This is also a day to do something special for yourself and to play. And it's also going to be necessary because the eclipse is the very next day. So we are just tipping over into this energy. And so taking Monday easy is a good idea. Also, we have Venus conjunct the North Node at 8 degrees in Pisces. And this is the first time that Venus has been in Pisces for a minute without Saturn, without Neptune, specifically Neptune, who's been hanging out since 2011 in Pisces and is now in Aries. And so this moment is really fresh and new. Venus is also being ruled by an exalted Jupiter, even though it's retrograde. There is this elevated energy of 2 exalted planets really feeling themselves and digging in. Also, important to note, this is the first time that we're having any interaction with a planet with the North Node in Pisces, free from Saturn and free from Neptune. And that North Node now has the freedom to fully project into the future, to create new and beautiful and limitless dynamics and connections. I've talked about kind of the trickiness of exalted planets. They can be kind of more is more to an extreme and be a bit overwhelming, also depending on your own chart. So, for instance, I have a detriment Venus, and so there's a very big, wide gap between those two. And so my experience with Venus and Pisces is very different from someone else's. Although I have spoken to natives and they have confirmed that it is a difficult, often difficult placement because there is, well, humans are fallible, and Venus in Pisces sees romance and love and connection as this exalted form of communication and energy. And so if you come with a Venus Pisces energy into a not so great relationship dynamic, it can be really jarring. But in this moment, Venus gets to be everything Venus wants to be. And Venus gets to do that in this portal of the North Node that is about the future and progression. If you are in a situation, relationally, it can be romantic, it can be family, on this day, this is the day to release those things. If you have already done the releasing, this is the day to further push the progression of your dreams and desires. And you can do both. You can release and progress, but the energy is going to be a lot. So pick one and the other will follow. The next day, I'll be doing a full video on this. We do have the first Aquarius Leo eclipse. It is a solar eclipse. It is in Aquarius. It is at 20 degrees, so right on the edge of Anoretic. Those are testier. At least it's not 29. Fun fact, conjunct my Saturn. It is really testy. It is square Uranus. It is sextile Chiron. I find fixed eclipses are more upsetting than all other signs, partially because of where they fall in my chart, but partially because if you think about the kind of qualities of mutable and cardinal, they are used to endings and beginnings, which is very eclipse energy, and fixed signs are in the middle and they do not like to change. Doesn't mean that you're fixed friends or if you're fixed sign that you never change. It just means that there is a resistance to being forced into things, whereas cardinal and mutable signs are like, this is how we always are. So in this moment, just recognize that this energy is very resistant to the forward motion. I will say in Aquarius, a little simpler, a little easier because Aquarius of all the fixed signs is a little more movable, but we are moving into the Leo Aquarius axis, which is very much about power and the resistance to power. I heard someone once describe Aquarius as the heretic. This is the heretic, the rebel, the pot stirrer, but not in like a derogatory sense, but in the sense of like what is the norm. Aquarius will then break apart, which is also very Saturnian of them. And then we have the Leo energy, which is, often represents power and people who get a lot of visibility. It also represents the self and ego. So we are being pitted against like change and progression and resistance, and then also the comfort of self and the placement of self and the sensitivity of the ego. And so just know that we are kicking this 18-month cycle off now. The nodes do not shift until July officially, and we am pretty for sure we never get a fully, a fully Aquarius Leo moment. It is completely bookended by Pisces and Virgo and then Cancer and Capricorn. And just a tiny sneak peek into 2027, there's a triple eclipse at the end. So, well, not at the end, technically mid, technically basically summer. So, summer of 2027, log that away. That's crazy. Then on Friday, which we get a few days to kind of percolate and shift down from the eclipse, then on Friday, we have the sun entering into Pisces, which is very nice. We finally, get to move into a Jupiter ruled energy. We're at the final season of the zodiacal year. This is where we truly get to wrap things up. Like I said, we are doing this in the middle of eclipses. It is not simple, it is not easy. And I don't want to make it feel like it is because it's not. It's also leading up to the Saturn Neptune conjunction. So a lot of 0-degree energy, which means change, transformation, limitless possibilities. This moment is what you make it very much comes to mind. This Pisces season, just a reminder, and I'll do a full Pisces video, which I'll probably release on Wednesday. So the 18th? No, I've gotten this wrong. I wrote this down incorrectly. This Mercury retrograde is already eating me alive, folks. So the sun doesn't go into Pisces on Friday. I miswrote. The sun goes into Pisces on Wednesday. Glad I caught that. Sun goes into Pisces on Wednesday, so I will be posting this on Monday before that Aquarius eclipse, and I will post the eclipse video on Sunday. I try to post it like 2 days before, so you have some time to kind of think about it and prepare and like look at your life and check your charts. Um, so sun goes into there. It's eclipse season. We're gonna have a Mercury retrograde. We have the Neptune Saturn conjunction. It's going to be a lot. I do think that this Mercury retrograde is deeply transformational. I think it's really going to set us up, regardless of how difficult it is, it's really going to set us up for entering into the new zodiacal year with the spring equinox with a beautifully clean slate. Now, does it not station direct until like right before? Yes. So we will still have that post retrograde in the first few weeks, which will make it feel a bit regressive. But by the time we fully get into the middle of Aries season, things are going to feel a lot more free, a lot more moving, which thank goodness. I don't know about you, but this year has been 2026 has been 6 years already, and we're not even fully through February. It also might be because I live in Minneapolis, but it has been a lot. Anyways, just know that Pisces season is a little less dreamy, more confusing. This is also the first Pisces season without Saturn in the last couple of years. It moved in the middle, I'm pretty sure the middle of Pisces season. Um, Last time, middle Pisces season or in beginning of Aries season. It's been a minute since I checked. And then it's been there since 2023. And then Neptune has been in Pisces since 2011. And so this is the first time we kind of get free-ish as a Pisces season. So really enjoy it. My advice for pretty much every single transit, big, small, whatever, is to just prepare. Just be ready to release, be ready to let things go, be ready to move through, and to um, just let things shift and to drift away from us as we exist and we um, soak in the energy. Uh, it's not a Pisces season for getting a bunch of stuff done. It's not a Pisces season for um, being really on top of things. It is a Pisces season to process and release. And do I think the eclipses are going to move us to a completely new place? Yes, but it's not by you pressuring yourself, it's by the universe picking you up and being like, here, let's drop you in a new timeline. That second eclipse is on the 3rd of March, just so you know. Then we go into Saturday. So now we have some time to wind down from the eclipses. And that is that Saturn Neptune conjunction. We haven't had one in Aries, I want to say, since the 1700s. I don't have my notes. And like I said, the post shadow Mercury retrograde is already causing me to suffer. We have had a Neptune, we have had a Neptune Saturn conjunction that was back in '89. So think about if you were alive then. I was not, but if you were, I was born in '93. Fun fact. If you were alive then, think about what that happened. If you have that in your chart, this is a really big moment for you. Also, remembering that it was in another cardinal sign, it was in Capricorn. You might be born under that energy. Just a heads up. I, in fact, have a sibling who has a Saturn Neptune conjunction, and not to sidetrack into my personal issues, but it's not going well. Saturn Neptune conjunctions really create a lot of distortion around belief and connection. It also creates an idealistic dynamic and relationship with the idea of father, um, of power, of energy. Now, in a healthier way, in someone who has processed things, Saturn conjunct Neptune can also be someone with a really strong sense of self and an ability to like really shift things magically in their favor. Like that is a manifestation hotspot once you can do the Saturnian work and get your hands on it. So, and that one I think was at, I want to say 6 degrees. It was in the first decan. So we have this energy again. This was the energy of the Reformation, fun fact. This big shift away from the power of the Roman Catholic Church, moving into Protestantism in the West, uh, things like that. Um, while I don't think that was technically a positive move, we did at least start to question the divine right of kings. And, that had kind of already previously happened a bit, but we finally were like, okay, we dismantled the kings a little bit. Now we're dismantling the Pope and that religion. Also, in other countries, we're looking at a lot of wars and rebellions happening, and a shift away from oppressive dynamics. So just know that the Saturn Neptune conjunction brings clashes of idealism. It brings a clash of the collective conscious versus individual consciousness, especially when it comes to people in power. In Aries, we have this energy of newness and possibility, and it is at 0 degrees, which is also the energy of anything goes. So be really conscious about how you're moving with this. Obviously, we can't control everything, and nor should we. But in this moment, I really encourage you to do some kind of ritual work if you do ritual work on Saturday to really progress your desires, your structures, your dreams, the way that you want to build yourself going forward. And also, I would encourage you to infuse a collective wish within that so that you can work on a multi level of the self and of others to kind of create a beneficial symbiotic loop for yourself and your environment and the people that you're with. And then we get the beginning and the end of this week doing two cute little things. We have Venus trine Jupiter, and it's those two exalted benefic beings coming together, and it's a really good thing for romance for one. And you're like, Abigail, my life is devoid of romance. And here's the deal: I'm not fighting you on the devoidness of your romantic life. When I say it's good for romance, I don't necessarily mean that we're meeting someone that day, because people, depending on your chart, you are going to have a different reaction to different energy. I tend to feel energies, or at least have conclusions and actual functioning reactions to energy a few days later to a few months later. Um, might be the autism, which is sometimes how I process feelings. Um, but this is the portal and the opening for these shifts and changes, and it's happening in the middle of eclipse season when so much is possible. So I really beg you, dream bigger, believe in bigger things. I know the energy's been really heavy and it feels really down and low, but believe in more than is possible. Believe in your ability to attain more than is possible. Release fears around success. We live in a society where if you are not innately privileged, if you are not born with a certain skin color, if you are not given a certain place in birth, then you are discouraged from believing in your own success and power. And the only those of us who have been encouraged under these systems are also encouraged in a way that we will burn and destroy ourselves, because we are seen, all of us are seen as fodder to capitalism. So I encourage you to dismantle that part if you can. It's a lifelong journey. I am on it. But to project into a future that is more than possible. We are simply trapped in the limited imagination of powerful men, and their imagination is only to destroy and to dominate, not to grow, not to change, not to manifest, not to create a beautiful world. It is to create a world where they have absolute power, which is gross, because why would you want absolute power when you can dance with the cosmos? I do not understand. Anyways, so I really encourage you to dream bigger, to embrace the energy that is coming. I would suggest Mercury trine Jupiter on Monday, the Venus North Node conjunction. Start to work on what you want. Let the eclipse on Tuesday influence you, the energy shift on Wednesday kind of cleanse. And then by the time we get to Saturday and Sunday, have some kind of dream or desire. It doesn't have to be fully formed, it's just in like the little embryonic stage, ready to go for a beautiful ritual, for a manifestation, for a meditation, for a chant, something to put it out in the universe, because this energy is really potent. And while this year is hard and will continue to be a bit rough, the astrology is tricky. These are the moments that are going to make all the difference, and I encourage you to engage in them. that is my read for this week. I do have a little something to show you. If you want to go on my IG, you can participate in this, but I made something. You get a little show and tell with me. I made these little bag charms. This is the protection one. It comes in navy blue as well. I'm going to be selling these for $25 with $5 shipping and handling because I got to get my little disabled ass to the post office. um, these are for protection. They have been charged with my house plants. By the time I put them up on the story sale, they will be fully consecrated. This one has a locust thorn in it for the main protective thing, along with a jasper tumble and a little herbal mix that you can call upon to protect and to keep you safe. And this little guy is the manifestation, very creation focused little lie. Both of these are infused with the energy of Imbolc. They were created around that time. Both inspired snowdrops are associated, candles and light are associated with that time because of the beginning of the sun starting to take more precedence in the sky. This little guy has a cowrie shell inside, an aventurine tumble, another a very separate and different herbal mix. They're both stuffed with sheep's wool, kind of bring that, rebirth and natural energy to them. Like I said, I will be doing a story sale. It will be, fun fact, on the eclipse. So I would really appreciate the support. Finances have been a bit tough because if you don't know, my long-term relationship ended. I ended up without housing because that person was my housing. And I moved across the country, 3-day drive to a new state, and then ICE came, which I know my problems are not the biggest ones here, but it has definitely been very hard to pay the bills with all of the shifts and all of the changes. So this is just one way that I am trying to put my energy out into the world and also make a little cash. And I'm really excited because I really do believe in these guys, and I'm really excited for that energy to go out into the world and to connect with other people and to be on other people's bags and keychains and belt loops and to be out in the world creating their own little bit of change. So, anyways, you can go check that out on my IG. I'll be posting a bit until I do the drop. I love you all. I wish you a wonderful week. It is going to be a lot. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I do think there is tons of possibility and shifts and changes coming our way. And I think this eclipse season is a really big turning point. That will wind down into the Mercury retrograde, and then once we get into Aries season, I think we're going to see some really positive stuff happening. Not that it's not already happening; it's just really counterbalanced with a lot of difficult things, both personally and externally. Everyone I know is going through it, so you're not alone. As always, please like and subscribe and pop any comments you have below. I really appreciate hearing from you guys.